Vancouver's green forests and bright waterfront hide a painful truth: thousands of people here have no place to call home. Having witnessed urban hardship firsthand, I'm struck by the sharp divide between the city's shining skyline and the tents lining its streets. Vancouver's homelessness crisis, much like the struggle of the homeless in America, is a quiet tragedy driven by soaring rents, a brutal opioid epidemic, and harsh weather. Come with me as we look at the causes, the human cost, especially addiction, and the fragile hope for change. This is a story we can't ignore. The quiet suffering beneath the city. Vancouver's homelessness crisis is an open wound beneath a city wrapped in emerald beauty. The 2025 point-in-time homeless count from the Homelessness Services Association of BC reports that 5,332 people are homeless across Metro Vancouver, a 9% rise since 2023. Within the city itself, 2,715 people sleep in damp tents or under overpasses, with 48% completely exposed to the elements. Even more heartbreaking, 71% are stuck in chronic homelessness, living in uncertainty for more than a year. Indigenous people, though, a small share of the population, represent 34% of those living on the streets, a painful imbalance that cannot be ignored. Families are caught in this storm as well, with children growing up surrounded by instability and fear. These figures aren't abstract. They reflect real lives unraveling in a city full of wealth. I've walked through the downtown east side, where tents crowd the sidewalks, and felt the weight of lives pushed aside. This crisis mirrors the reality of the homeless in America, from Seattle's backstreets to the vast sprawl of Los Angeles. How do cities so alive allow so many to slip through the cracks? How do we walk past tarp-covered shelters without stopping? Each person out there carries a story of survival amid collapse, a quiet appeal to our shared humanity. Those faces stay with me, and I can't turn away. So, what's fueling this relentless crisis? Let's look next at the forces pulling lives apart. How the crisis took hold. What's happening in Vancouver didn't come out of nowhere. It's the result of broken systems, hard loss, and choices that leave people behind. The cost of living has become unforgiving. The average home now tops $1 million CAD, and renting a one-bedroom apartment can cost anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 a month. For many residents, that barrier is simply impossible to climb. About 35% of people experiencing homelessness say they lost housing because they couldn't keep up with rent and basic bills, a bitter reality in a city overflowing with wealth. Inflation only makes things worse, pushing food and daily necessities higher and forcing families and workers into constant survival mode. Money, though, isn't the only force at work. Indigenous communities still carry deep wounds from a long history of displacement and neglect that blocks access to stable housing. Women escaping violent homes often find themselves trading one danger for another on the streets. Even people working full-time low-wage jobs watch their pay disappear into rent before the month is over. Vancouver's relatively mild climate adds another cruel twist, drawing people from colder regions of Canada only to trap them in the same economic squeeze. This pattern of loss mirrors the suffering of the homeless in America. How can a city this prosperous allow so many to fall through the cracks? What keeps us from truly seeing their struggle? Having walked these rain-soaked streets myself, the faces behind these facts are impossible to forget. And waiting beneath it all is addiction ready to pull people even deeper. Why do we allow this cycle to continue? Let's confront that shadow next. How fentanyl deepened the homelessness crisis. The opioid epidemic, driven largely by fentanyl, has become one of the most powerful forces worsening homelessness in Vancouver. From 2016 to 2024, British Columbia recorded 8,506 overdose deaths, with Vancouver sitting at the centre of this ongoing disaster. Fentanyl, often combined with methamphetamine, has a strong hold on people living on the streets, accounting for about 24% of substance use among the homeless. In the downtown east side, addiction and homelessness are tightly intertwined, each one fueling the other in a cycle that's hard to escape. Addiction doesn't just follow homelessness, it often triggers it, and fentanyl plays a major role in tearing lives apart. Roughly 40% of Vancouver's homeless say substance use, especially fentanyl, cost them their jobs, housing, and sense of direction. Michael, once a working mechanic, is one of countless examples. An injury led to fentanyl use, and soon after, he lost everything. Now, living in a damp tent, he struggles daily to stay sober, surrounded by constant risk. On the streets, overdoses are common, and diseases like hepatitis C spread through unsafe needle use. Vancouver's cold, wet winters with temperatures between 0 degrees and 8 degrees make street life dangerous, raising the risk of hypothermia. Summer brings its own threats as heat waves like the 40 degrees C spike in 2021 increase dehydration and overdose deaths. Relentless rain destroys supplies, pushing users toward unsafe alternatives and greater danger. Safe injection sites and naloxone have saved lives, but with only about 2,000 treatment beds across the province and long wait lists, support remains fragile. The cycle continues, and without stronger action, the question remains, can it truly be broken? When weather becomes a threat to survival. Vancouver's weather is a mixed blessing for people living without shelter. Winters are gentler than in much of Canada, with temperatures rarely dropping below 0 degrees. Yet the endless rain and heavy humidity seep into bones and make the cold feel unbearable. Picture trying to stay warm when your only refuge is a soaked tent in places like Crab Park. Summer offers a brief sense of relief, with temperatures ranging from 15 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius. But sudden heat waves, like the 2021 heat dome that sent temperatures soaring to 40 degrees Celsius, can be deadly for anyone without shade or clean water. These sharp swings in weather strike the homeless hardest, turning each day into a fight just to stay alive. The health consequences are severe. Long wet winters raise the risk of hypothermia pneumonia and skin infections, especially for people already struggling with addiction or chronic disease. When summer arrives, dehydration and heat exhaustion become constant threats, particularly for older adults and those using substances. Rain ruins what little people own. Blankets, clothing, and even vital documents are soaked beyond saving, while the stress of constant exposure deepens depression and isolation. Shelters do help, but with only about 1,000 beds across the city, many are turned away, especially during the coldest months. Vancouver's Extreme Weather Response Program adds short-term beds during severe cold, but it's a temporary fix to a much larger problem. Climate change only compounds the crisis, bringing more floods and heat waves that disrupt encampments and vital services. So, how does a city brace itself for these growing pressures? Next, we look at who carries the heaviest burden. The people behind the crisis. Vancouver's homelessness crisis isn't just a city problem. It reflects a painful reality seen across Canada. The numbers are stark. Indigenous people, though a small share of the population, make up a disproportionate part of those without housing, carrying the lasting harm of residential schools and systemic racism. Women, many escaping domestic abuse, face constant danger once they're on the streets. Stories like Parissa's make this impossible to ignore. A homeless woman in Edmonton, she has been sleeping outside for more than 3 years, surviving brutal winters. She shared how police repeatedly forced her to move without offering shelter, and she fears she won't live through another winter. Her story mirrors what many endure, especially Indigenous women, who often shoulder the heaviest burden of this crisis. This struggle reaches far beyond one city or group. Seniors on small pensions can't keep up with rising rents and must choose between housing and food. Young people aging out of foster care are left without support, lacking the tools to find stability. Immigrants face language barriers and low-paying work, always one step away from losing everything. Families are being pulled in too, with children growing up in cars or tents as affordable housing disappears. Running through all of this are addiction and mental health struggles, tightly linked to the opioid epidemic. These aren't statistics, they're real lives. Parissa, in The Cold Elders Skipping Meals, youth turned away from shelters. It's a painful test of our humanity. How do we allow this to continue? Where hope still struggles to survive. Vancouver faces an enormous homelessness crisis, but the city isn't standing completely still. Having witnessed small sparks of hope in dark moments, I'm encouraged by the efforts underway, even if many feel like temporary fixes on a broken system. Housing first remains the foundation, giving people a stable place to live before addressing addiction or mental health needs. It's a compassionate approach, yet with nearly 3,000 people stuck on waiting lists and too few homes being built, that promise feels fragile. The province's Belonging in BC plan aims to deliver thousands of new housing units and shelter beds by 2030, but for many, that future feels far away. When winter rains arrive, the Extreme Weather Response Programme opens short-term shelters offering warmth and hot meals. Still, with only about 1,000 shelter beds across the city, many are left out in the cold. Non-profits like Union Gospel Mission and the Salvation Army step in daily, handing out coffee meals and blankets at sunrise. I've seen their volunteers, everyday people, showing up with quiet compassion. For Vancouver's large Vietnamese community organizations, such as Mosaic, work to keep immigrants housed by connecting them to jobs and support. Addressing addiction is just as urgent. In Sight, the city's supervised consumption site saves lives with clean supplies and naloxone. Yet with only around 2,000 treatment beds across British Columbia and long wait lists, help remains out of reach for many. Temporary modular housing offers some stability, and talk of a tiny home village near Crab Park hints at a more ambitious future. These efforts matter, but they fall short. What more should be done to close the gap? How can a city this alive step up further? Seeing these small victories gives me hope, but it also leaves me asking what's still holding us back. Why real change remains out of reach. Having watched cities struggle with their deepest scars, I'm struck by how Vancouver's efforts to help the homeless keep running into hard limits. The most painful barrier is the severe shortage of affordable housing. Around 3,000 people sit on waiting lists, while only a small number of new homes are being built, leaving hope thin and fragile. Adding to the damage, 630 low-rent units' lifelines for the poorest residents have been lost to fires, or neglect a devastating blow to those barely hanging on. The opioid crisis remains relentless, claiming 8,506 lives across British Columbia since 2016. Treatment beds are limited, and stigma keeps many from seeking help. I've heard people say they avoid shelters out of fear of judgment or losing what little they own, a reality that echoes the pain of the homeless in America, from San Francisco to Portland. Efforts to clear tent encampments in the downtown east side, often framed as restoring order, frequently scatter people with nowhere to go, fueling anger and despair. Climate change adds another layer of hardship as stronger floods and heat waves destroy fragile encampments and strain already thin services. Those most at risk, Indigenous families, women and young people, face the highest walls. Programs meant to support them, including safe spaces and culturally grounded housing, are overwhelmed and underfunded. It's frustrating to watch compassion stall against systemic failure. How do we close the gap between care and real action? What keeps meaningful change out of reach? Witnessing this struggle leaves me restless for progress. So, where does Vancouver go from here? Let's turn our eyes toward what comes next. Is there a way out of this crisis? Without real action, Vancouver's homelessness crisis is at risk of growing even worse. Current projections are alarming. By 2030, the city's homeless population could reach 4,700, nearly a 50% increase from today. The opioid epidemic also shows little sign of easing, with forecasts warning that overdose deaths in British Columbia could surpass 10,000 by the end of the decade. As temporary housing and SRO units disappear, more people are left exposed to Vancouver's harsh reality wet winters and increasingly dangerous summer heat waves. Still, this doesn't have to be a story of despair. Real change will require bold, coordinated steps. Vancouver must sharply expand affordable housing. Building 2,000 new supportive units by 2030 is progress, but it won't meet the scale of the need. Preserving existing SROs and restoring vacancy control could help keep rents within reach. Addiction care also needs urgent investment. Adding 1,000 plus treatment beds and cutting wait times could mean the difference between life and death. Harm reduction efforts, including more supervised injection sites and wider access to naloxone, remain essential to keeping people alive long enough to seek recovery. Support for vulnerable groups must be central. Indigenous-led housing safe spaces for women fleeing violence and job training for youth aging out of foster care can help break long-standing cycles of poverty. Climate resilience matters as well. More winter shelters and weather-resistant housing options can reduce the toll of rain, cold and heat. Immigrant communities, including Vancouver's Vietnamese population, along with other groups, can play a stronger role by partnering with non-profits to offer outreach and advocacy. Above all, cooperation is critical. Governments, non-profits and communities must work together. The stakes are high and time is short. Will Vancouver meet this moment or allow the crisis to deepen? Let's close with a final reflection. What this crisis asks of all of us. Vancouver's homelessness crisis reflects a struggle seen around the world, echoing the pain of the homeless in America. Soaring rents, a deadly opioid epidemic and harsh weather weigh heavily on 5,632 people across Metro Vancouver, each trying to make it through another day. Indigenous families, abused women, vulnerable youth and aging seniors deserve far more than life in damp tents and constant fear. Addiction tightens its hold, deepening the harm, yet small signs of hope remain through Housing First and tireless non-profit work. The gaps are clear and demand action, more housing, more treatment and more compassion. Supporting groups like Union Gospel Mission or local shelters can make a real difference. Moved by their strength, I ask what it will take for us to act. The homeless in America are waiting too, and we can't afford to look away.